Hey guys. Well, today we will be doing something special. This is for a project. You ever read the book Call of the Wild? For those who have, Call of the Wild is a classic. It tells a tale about a dog, gold, and yada yada yada. So today we're going to be looking at the Call of the Wild movie. And before you ask, I am not talking about the Call of the Wild movie that's coming out this year, the one with Harrison Ford and CGI. I'm talking about the older ones. The ones that actually were made before this one to celebrate. So first we're going to look at this film from 1935 called Call of the Wild, starring Clark Gable. Yep, that Oscar-winning Clark Gable is a classic. Called the Wild. It's a classic, known film. Everybody loves it, It's not a lot of people nowadays know it, but for me, I know what it is. Because it has Clark Gable in it. He's awesome. There's been a bunch of ones, too. But I'm going to choose this one. It's not a silent film like the one from the 20s. It's not a direct-to-DVD film like some other one. And it's not an international film like, the ones you probably be aware of. This one's actually a very rare, very unknown 2009 low-budget film called Call of the Wild 3D. And it stars Christopher Lloyd, who is also a good actor, but yeah, I don't know, this movie's pretty, well, we're gonna look at these two films and see which one's better, which one's closer to the book, and which one just has more to it. So, let's get looking. So before we actually compare, we're going to talk about these movies separately and see how they work. Let's first talk about the original, Call of the Wild. Film came out in 1935, it's black and white, but it's not silent. And like I said, it stars Clark Gable, who was a big Oscar winner at the time. We all love him. So what is this trying to convey? The story is goes like this. During the Klondike Gold Rush, a traveler purchases a dog to lead the way toward the treasure, but recognizes his journey when he finds a jilted married woman. So this actually does connect a little bit to the book. Because in the book, that's what it is. Except the marriage in this movie actually just goes a little bit further than it does in the book. Because in the book, we don't really get much to the marriage as much as we do with the actual dog story. Because we get more narrative to the dog. In this movie, more narrative comes from the character. So really, it's kind of a little thing here. But here, it's actually all well done. And I think it's great to add some changes. So yeah, we have the girl who's played by Loretta Young. You all know who she is. I don't know who she is. And she's, of course, as rude and bratty as most girls are nowadays. That came out right. Anyway, so yeah, it's him. But to be fair, Clark Gable's character also isn't that nice either. He's kind of rude sometimes and can't have its limits. But then again, the character was kind of like that in the book. The dog, Buck. He's a fun fella. Buck is a nice dog who really was worth. He's worth a couple bucks. Sorry about that. That was hilarious. Yeah, you probably didn't do this. Buck and Jack Fortin, who is the character's name, both don't get along very well the first time, but after they find some things together, they do get along pretty well. It isn't some sad moments this movie offers, like at the end where the dog leaves and hangs out with another wolf as they get babies, and it's going on Lady in the Tram. It's kind of like that in the book too, except in the book it was all analyzed a little bit less, as this movie actually is an hour and 30 minutes, while the book is told a little short. So they're both short, which actually works because this movie does actually analyze very well. Everything that's said in the movie is kind of similar to what's said in the book. Well, we get some changes though, as we try to convey to some who haven't actually read the book. That works too. I also love how real the dogs are. Unlike in the new one that's coming out, the dogs will be CGI. It's weird. This one actually does show real dogs. Of course, they had to try to take some time to do stuff, and some stuff were cheap effects at the time, but still really worked and still made the movie work out, as it's a nice comparison to the book. So overall, I think this Call of the Wild film is a very fun and very well-made film, as it really connects to the book and adds some fun new elements as on the way. Now let's look at the 2009 film. Like I said, this is very low budget. Now, let's think about this movie. This movie is based off the novel too, as it actually does say on the cover, but it's kind of a little less talked about the book. They kind of focus a little less on it, as it's actually not really that much close to the book. You see, because the dog, there is a dog named Buck who enters a race, but that's really all they analyze in this movie. They analyze a. That's my dog, he's barking. Anyway, they analyze mostly just that, the dog entering a race. You don't really analyze the other stuff the book had. They just take that and try to find a way to make a story out of it. I mean, it's a little tough to think about, you know? There's moments in the film that really don't feel like the book. You know, they just feel like a basic movie. And a low budget movie, you know? You know what I just realized though? For some you don't know this actually kind of feels similar to The Room movie. You know that funny movie, cringy film. It reminds me. It's similar to The Room. Now, for those who don't know The Room, it's some 2003 film that's so bad it's good. Because of you can look it up and see stuff for yourself. Anyway, it's similar to The Room because not really the story, but you see, it has cringy acting, very low budget stuff, and very rushed emotion. But that's off the topic. This movie doesn't connect the book well. I will admit this, the stuff that does work is similar to the book does actually connect a lot compared to the original. But this does really seem to have those moments. It's just that there's moments in the film that aren't really like the book. Like we get random family appearance, you know, stories about a girl who goes to a house with an old man and then finds a dog and feels like she should enter that dog in a race, but the dog's wild, so it could be a problem. That's kind of Call of the Wild, but in one way it's not really Call of the Wild. Because, I don't know, that's not really what it is. It's just, we get a bunch of friendship, we get a bunch of villainy. That's not what the book's about. The book talks about dog relation and, relation to gold and adventure. This talks about happiness, friendship. It's not really what the book's supposed to be. I'm going to ignore how badly acted and low budget the film is. That's what I'm going to say. But really, though, it just didn't work for me. So I think the new Call of the Wild film really didn't work very well for me. It's not really that good of a movie. It just seems to not have this kind of spirit the book had. No, like, actual adventure. No actual dog story as much. It just didn't feel right. We get just a bunch of girl having fun with this guy who tells him a story. Yeah, he actually reads a story about the actual Call of the Wild book. So this movie's based off the book, and part of the story is him reading her the book. What kind of sense does that make? None, I know, right? It's weird. It's dumb. And the movie doesn't do well at that, either. So now we're going to look at which film does better. You probably already know who the winner is, but actually, maybe I'm going to be wrong. Maybe there is another one. Maybe the new version is better than the original. Maybe the original is better than the new one. Either way, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to mainly look at how they connect to the book. The original connects to the book very well, like I said. They add more love to it, however. There's more love than there was in the actual book. But honestly, that works for a movie. You gotta add some stuff. You just gotta keep the message going, but you can at least add some elements on the way. While the new film just changes it up a lot and just takes the dog and make the dog enter a race and use that for the movie. It's not really like Call of the Wildish. It's not like that at all. But like I said, the stuff that actually is connected to the book does connect pretty well. Not though, it doesn't, not really sometimes. Because at the end, the dog wins the race, yay! But the villain still won't admit it, no. But then he leaves and is like, "This is not over." And then she thinks she keeps the dog, but it turns out the dog's too wild for her, so she has to get it away, no. So the ending proves that they should always, when a dog is too wild, you gotta let it go. But no, they don't let him go. They just give it away to a stranger they don't even know. A lot. And teaches us, when you can't keep a wild animal, you just give it to someone you don't know. That's kind of what it is. It doesn't work. For a movie For a movie in general, it's bad, but for a movie about Call of the Wild, it is garbage. Like, doesn't connect at all. Dog and a Ray, that's all they analyze. They don't really put much detail in it like they do with the book. And that is why the original 1935 film is much better. It does connect to the book. That could be because it's probably the first adaptation, but compared to the new 2009 film, it's just not, it's just better. It connects more. It's not one of the best films ever. It's not really that credible because there are flaws. But for Call of the Wild book, Wild standards, it's really well done, and it really does a very well job. And I think Clark Gable is happy for his performance. I mean, he's obviously no Gone with the Wind, but it certainly is a great little detail. So, of course, the original 1935 film is the better movie. It has the better message, the better connection, while the new film sucks. There you have it. That's my comparison. Now, for those who are wanting to see the new Call of the Wild film, I'm warning you, for what I saw, it looks kind of weirdly done. It's crazy. And like I said, the dog CGI is ugly. Ugh. So if you see it, you can at least tell me about it. And tell me if it actually is a good one to the book. But I'm only going to listen to the ones who actually read the book. Because they would be the real connection. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for movie standards. I'm looking for Call of the Wild standards. Well, I gotta go. It's getting pretty late.